Ever wonder where blockbuster franchises like Alien, The Matrix, and Terminator got their DNA? Try looking in the bargain bin. The 1950s produced some of the wildest, weirdest sci-fi flicks ever made, and these low-budget wonders created blueprints Hollywood's been copying for decades. Let's dive into 12 B-movie masterpieces that changed cinema forever while nobody was looking. Number 12, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. Holy paranoia, Batman. This film about emotionless pod people replacing your loved ones tapped into America's Cold War fears and basically invented the trust no one thriller genre. Director Don Siegel shot this masterpiece in just 23 days on a laughably tiny budget of $300,000, proving you don't need money to make movie history. What makes Body Snatchers so revolutionary is its ending. The studio forced Siegel to add a hopeful frame story, but the original cut ended with Kevin McCarthy's character screaming, "You're next," directly into the camera.
Here already! You're next!
Talk about breaking the fourth wall. This moment shocked audiences and created the template for the modern twist ending. Critics initially dismissed it as just another alien invasion flick, but French film theorists later hailed it as a masterpiece of socio-political commentary. Without this film, we would not have The Thing, They Live, or even Get Out. The film's central image of identical pod people growing in basements has become shorthand for conformity and hidden threats in our society. Are they human? Thriller owes this movie a royalty check. Number 11, The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957. Imagine waking up smaller each day until atoms look like planets. That's the wild premise of this existential nightmare that somehow slipped past the monsters and mayhem marketing to deliver profound commentary on human existence. Director Jack Arnold transformed a microscopic $750,000 budget into groundbreaking special effects that still impress today. The battle scene between our finger-sized hero and a house spider required revolutionary camera techniques and oversized props. That tarantula? It was actually filmed crossing a miniature set while being blasted with compressed air to slow its movements. Pure practical effects genius that influenced everything from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to Ant-Man. What really elevates this film is its shockingly philosophical ending. Instead of being rescued, our hero continues shrinking into the infinite unknown while delivering an existential monologue about finding meaning in a vast universe. Critics were floored, with the New York Times calling it more than a science fiction thriller, a moving allegory of man's place in the universe. This was not just sci-fi, it was Kafka with ray guns, inspiring filmmakers from Cronenberg to Kaufman to blend high concept with deep philosophy. Number 10. The Blob, 1958. Nothing says American cinema revolution like a gelatinous mass of alien goo terrorizing teenagers. The Blob did not just introduce the world to Steve McQueen, credited as Steven, it created the template for every teen-focused horror film that followed. Shot for a mere $110,000, this red menace became a box office phenomenon, grossing over $4 million. The Blob itself was a masterpiece of low-budget ingenuity.
It's a little dog.
Everything's gonna be all right. You hear me? No.
Special effects wizard Bart Sloan created the monster using silicone and red dye, manipulating it with hidden air bladders and reverse photography. For the famous movie theater scene, they built a miniature cinema and poured the blob substance down the walls. Crude, maybe, effective, absolutely terrifying. What truly set this film apart was its marketing. Producer Jack H. Harris targeted the teenage audience with rock and roll promotional materials and a catchy theme song by Burt Bacharach. This was the first sci-fi film to recognize teens as a viable market, creating the blueprint for everything from Gremlins to Stranger Things. Critics initially dismissed it as drive-in trash, but its influence is undeniable. Every filmmaker who's ever created a monster from practical effects owes a debt to this amorphous pioneer. Number 9. Plan 9, From Outer Space, 1959. Let's get weird. Frequently crowned the worst film ever made, Ed Wood's magnum opus about aliens resurrecting the dead to stop humans from creating a doomsday weapon has become more influential than many Oscar winners. This $60,000 disaster featured cardboard tombstones, flying saucers made from paper plates, and Bela Lugosi, who literally died during production.
Was flying so low the exhaust knocked people to the ground.
The behind-the-scenes chaos is legendary. When Lugosi died after shooting only a few minutes of footage, Wood replaced him with his wife's chiropractor, who was significantly taller and looked nothing like Lugosi. His brilliant solution: have the replacement hold a cape over his face in every scene. The flying saucer control panels were clearly shower curtains with household items glued on, and day randomly turns to night between cuts. What makes Plan 9 revolutionary is not its quality, but its sincerity. Wood truly believed he was making art, giving the film an earnestness that elevated it from forgettable to legendary. This genuine passion, despite obvious limitations, created the template for cult cinema appreciation. Without Plan 9, we would not have the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Troll 2, or the entire so bad it's good cinema movement. Critics were merciless, but time has proven Plan 9's strange power. As filmmaker John Waters said, Ed Wood's films have a sincerity that makes them more enjoyable than many films with 1,000 times the budget. Number 8. Forbidden Planet, 1956. Holy Shakespeare in Space. This Technicolor masterpiece did not just reinvent The Tempest with robots and monsters, it created the visual language of space, opera that Star Trek and Star Wars would later borrow liberally. MGM actually spent serious money here, $1.9 million, creating the first big-budget sci-fi spectacle with revolutionary special effects. The film introduced audiences to Robbie the Robot, cinema's first robot celebrity, who cost a staggering $125,000 to build. That's over $1 million in today's dollars. This mechanical marvel could speak 188 languages and lift 10 tons, establishing the template for lovable mechanical sidekicks from C-3PO to Wall-E. The invisible monster realized through hand-drawn animation overlaid on film created the template for energy-based creatures in science fiction. What truly set Forbidden Planet apart was its revolutionary electronic soundtrack, the first entirely electronic score in movie history. Composers Louis and B.B. Barron created otherworldly sounds by recording electronic circuits as they burned out, establishing sonic techniques still used in sci-fi today. Critics recognized its brilliance immediately, with The Hollywood Reporter calling it a milestone in cinematic science fiction. Without Forbidden Planet, space would have stayed silent and empty instead of becoming the colorful, creature-filled playground we know today. Number 7. The Fly, 1958. Help me! Those two words squeaked by a tiny fly with a human head traumatized an entire generation and established body horror as a legitimate sci-fi subgenre. This Technicolor nightmare about a teleportation experiment gone horribly wrong was shot for $700,000 and earned over $3 million, proving audiences had an appetite for grotesque transformation stories. The reveal of scientist André Delambre with a giant fly head remains one of cinema's most shocking moments. To create this effect, they built a 30-pound fly head that actor David Hedison could barely support with his neck. The close-up of the fly with a tiny human head and arm was achieved using a hand puppet against a black background. Simple but nightmarishly effective. What makes The Fly revolutionary is not just its gruesome premise, but its emotional core. This was not just monster mayhem. It was a tragic love story that asked profound questions about humanity and science. Critics were divided, but audiences were captivated. The film's influence extends far beyond David Cronenberg's famous remake. Its DNA can be found in everything from Scanners to Stranger Things. The Fly proved that horror could be both intellectually and emotionally challenging while still delivering unforgettable imagery. Number 6. Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, 1956. Landmarks getting obliterated by aliens? Yep, this film did it first. Long before Independence Day blew up the White House, this Ray Harryhausen special effects showcase was toppling the Washington Monument and Capitol building through revolutionary stop-motion animation. Producer Sam Katzman gave Harryhausen a modest $500,000 budget to create destruction that still impresses today. The flying saucers themselves became the template for UFO design in popular culture. Harryhausen crafted them with intricate detail, creating their spinning motion by filming them on turntables against sky backgrounds. For the destruction scenes, he built miniature landmarks that could break apart in specific ways, photographing them frame by frame as they collapsed. What makes this film revolutionary is how it combined documentary-style footage with science fiction. Director Fred F. Sears incorporated actual Pentagon footage and military stock films to give the invasion authenticity, creating the template for the found footage aesthetic decades before Blair Witch Project. Critics dismissed it as drive-in fare, but filmmakers took notice. Roland Emmerich has openly admitted that Earth vs. the Flying Saucers directly inspired Independence Day's destruction sequences, proving this B-movie's DNA has been replicated in blockbusters with 100 times its budget. Number 5. Invaders from Mars, 1953. Nightmarish imagery from a child's perspective? Check. This fever dream of a film was among the first to present alien invasion through a kid's eyes, creating the template for everything from E.T. to Super 8. Working with just $290,000, director William Cameron Menzies created surreal, distorted sets that mimicked a child's perception of the adult world. The film's sandy pit, where Martians drag humans underground, became instantly iconic. To create this effect, they built a full-sized quicksand trap with vacuum attachments beneath that could realistically pull people under. The Martian leader, a greenhead in a glass bubble, was operated by 3 puppeteers and required actor wearing swimming goggles inside a fish tank. What made this film revolutionary was its ambiguous ending that suggested the entire movie might have been a dream, or was it? This twist ending came decades before Inception made dream logic fashionable. The film's distorted sets with exaggerated perspectives and unsettlingly dreamlike quality created a visual language for portraying childhood fear. Steven Spielberg has cited this film as a major influence on his work, particularly in how it portrays the wonder and terror of childhood. Critics initially dismissed its juvenile perspective, failing to recognize that this flaw would become its most influential aspect. Number 4. The Monolith Monsters, 1957. Rocks that grow, multiply, and petrify humans? Only in the wonderfully weird world of 50s sci-fi could a non-sentient threat be this terrifying. This geological nightmare introduced the concept that alien threats could be ecological rather than biological. Universal Pictures created this unique menace for just $400,000. To create the growing crystal effect, special effects wizard Clifford Stein used time-lapse photography of salt crystals forming in water, then superimposed them over miniature sets. For scenes of the monoliths crashing through buildings, they built breakaway miniatures and filmed them at high speed to create realistic destruction when played back at normal speed. What makes this film revolutionary is its non-traditional threat. These are not invaders with ray guns or body snatchers. They're literally space rocks following natural chemical processes with no malevolence. This concept of an impersonal, unstoppable natural force influenced everything from the Blob to The Happening. The film's pseudo-scientific explanation for the monoliths feels surprisingly modern in its approach to alien life. Critics praised its unique premise, with Variety calling it a welcome departure from the Monster of the Week format. While not as well remembered as its contemporaries, the Monolith Monsters pioneered the ecological disaster subgenre that would later include films like The Day After Tomorrow. Number 3. Fiend Without a Face, 1958. Invisible brain monsters that suck out your brains and spinal cords? Now we're talking. This British-American production pushed the boundaries of on-screen gore with stop-motion brain creatures that still look disturbingly real. Producer Richard Gordon accomplished all this with a tight budget of $870,000. The creatures themselves, literally disembodied brains with spinal cord tails, were revolutionary in their design. Special effects artist Peter Nielsen constructed them using rubber surgical tubing and mechanical parts that could be manipulated frame by frame. When shot, they bled a mixture of corn syrup, ketchup, and rubber cement that bubbled and oozed realistically. These effects were so shocking that British censors demanded cuts before allowing its release. What makes this film groundbreaking is how it combines nuclear anxiety with body horror. The creatures are created by atomic radiation and telekinetic experiments, reflecting fears about both nuclear power and unethical science. This premise influenced everything from Scanners to Stranger Things. Critics were divided, with many finding it too graphic, but its technical achievements were undeniable. Director David Cronenberg has cited it as an early influence on his body horror work, proving that sometimes the most influential films are the ones that push boundaries of good taste. Number 2. Attack of the Crab Monsters, 1957. Telepathic radioactive crabs that absorb the minds of their victims? Roger Corman created this delirious masterpiece in just 9 days for $70,000, proving that imagination matters more than time or money. This film pioneered the concept of isolated scientists being picked off one by one, creating the template for countless science fiction horror films. The Crab Monsters themselves were marvels of low-budget ingenuity. Unable to afford a full monster suit, Corman built only the front portions of the crabs, filming them emerging from cave entrances to hide their incompleteness. For underwater scenes, they filmed in a flooded quarry with murky water that conveniently obscured the monster's limitations. What makes this film revolutionary is its bizarre scientific premise, the idea that radiation could enable creatures to absorb human consciousness. When the crabs eat someone, they gain their knowledge and can speak with their voices to lure other victims. This concept of assimilating intelligence influenced everything from The Thing to Arrival. Critics dismissed it as drive-in fodder, but its efficient storytelling and unique concepts have made it a cult favorite. Filmmaker James Cameron has acknowledged Corman's influence, particularly in creating tension with limited resources, a lesson he applied to the Terminator decades later. Number 1. Target Earth, 1954. Empty cities and killer robots? This overlooked gem pioneered the post-apocalyptic urban landscape decades before The Walking Dead made it cool. Produced on a shoestring $100,000 budget, this film created a convincingly deserted Chicago using early morning shoots when downtown streets were naturally empty. The robot design became instantly iconic, a lumbering mechanical menace with a single glowing eye and hydraulic limbs. Created by uncredited designer Jack Borer, this robot was constructed from discarded aircraft parts and operated by a stuntman inside. To create the illusion of heavy mechanical movement, the actor moved in slow motion while the camera captured at a lower frame rate. What makes this film revolutionary is its focus on human survivors rather than the alien threat. Most of the film explores how different personality types respond to crisis, creating the template for character-driven apocalypse stories. The film also introduced the concept of technological invasion as a prelude to biological invasion, with robots serving as advanced scouts. Critics largely ignored it, but filmmakers took notice. Director John Carpenter has mentioned Target Earth as an influence on his apocalyptic cityscapes in Escape from New York. The film's central premise, waking up to find your city mysteriously empty, has become a defining trope of post-apocalyptic fiction. There you have it, folks. 12 low-budget wonders that shaped cinema while nobody was looking. These films prove that innovation does not need a Marvel-sized budget, just wild imagination and the courage to be weird. The next time you watch a blockbuster with mind-blowing effects, remember its DNA probably contains some radioactive material from these 1950s gems. So what do you think? Which of these B-movie pioneers is your favorite? Did I miss any essential films that deserve recognition? Drop a comment below and let me know if you've seen any of these accidental masterpieces. And here's a question to debate. Are today's CGI-filled blockbusters actually less innovative than these low-budget wonders? Let me know what you think, and do not forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's strangest corners.